There we are. Now we're on the air. Hey, everybody. It's episode 17 of SteamFeed TV, and we have 4 of our panelists with us here tonight. We have Jennifer, Randy, Greg, and Doreen, and we're going to be talking, kind of free-forming it a little bit. We have some topics, but it's kind of going to be, I guess we'll call it the I Ain't Got Shit episode, because we're kind of, there's just stuff out there. And so I'm going to start it off with this whole ridiculousness that is the Kardashian thing. The weird part about the whole thing, and I'm sure that everybody out there has seen the Kardashian butt, and I find it interesting that, number one, it was under Break the Internet, but I think it plays on the fact that a comet, a spaceship landed on a comet, and that piece of news struggled to compete with the Kardashian butt. And I just wanted to go through with people, and I mean, to me, I'm finding the internet less and less interesting every day. I love the people that I interact with, but really, there's just so much junk out there, and this is a perfect example for me. So I just wanted to, you guys jump in and give me your opinion on just that whole thing.
Well, I'll kick us off. So my big takeaway from this is the whole point of the photo shoot was designed to break the internet, to take the most popular person on the internet and shoot her most popular part in the most gratuitous way that it can be shot, and to put it on the cover of a magazine and talk it up. And what I think is interesting is that all over this country right now, there are companies that are looking for their Kardashian ass for their industry to put on the cover of their virtual magazine. And that this salacious way of making things go viral and finding the thing that the people are going to talk about the most, not even because it's necessarily appropriate or high quality or art or interesting, it's just something, it's just buzzworthy. I don't know anybody that actually read that article about Kim Kardashian. So whether that actually did anything for that magazine is kind of doubtful. So we broke the internet, or almost broke the internet, for a week. But what did that really net that vendor? So I think the big takeaway for companies is you can stick a big, greasy Kardashian butt on your stuff, but what is the return on that other than it's salacious and big and people talk about it?
And it's going to leave an oily film.
Bunch of jive. I think the biggest problem, Jerry, with your space captain self that you are, is that Kardashian's butt eclipsed the satellite landing on the meteor. I mean, that's it. That's the point, right? The meteor was just too damn small for the big butt that was shown.
Took us a long time to get to the bottom, and we're not stopping there.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Greg and Doreen, what do you got? I mean, to me, it's just, I just find it just so interesting, and to me, it says a lot. I mean, we're talking about, Jennifer, you bring up a good point, and Randy, so do you. I mean, is it really doing anything? Is this creating buzz, and is that what social marketing has come down to?
I think Greg said he didn't even realize that it happened. So go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. So we were talking in the green room earlier, and I was one of the few people who didn't even I didn't really know what it was about. I didn't see the image. As Jennifer questioned so nicely, how does a straight guy in America not see this ass picture? But
you're in the 1%.
But it's funny because I didn't consciously do this, but I kind of filtered out friends and followers. Things like if I have a friend who is going to say this, to tweet that out or to share it on Facebook or wherever, then they're probably not my friend, and I should probably unfollow them. That was real, and so I guess over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, I've been unfriending people who would even tweet that out. Like before, they used to be the people who shared Farmville with me, and I would unfollow those people. And then they got to the people who wanted to share their Candy Crush thing, and I unfollowed them. And now they're like so like my friend, the people I follow on Facebook. I mean, we've cut back from 450 to maybe 40. So
Actually,
I've insulated myself from that stuff, which is both good and bad.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know very much about it either, and I didn't see it in my news feed either. I saw people talking about it, and I saw the picture of her ass that wasn't really her ass, So I saw that one too, but I actually didn't see it. But I did have a friend bring up an interesting question, and she said, "How are you talking to your kids about this picture?" And I hadn't really thought about it because I've got, a 17 and a 16-year-old boy, and I mean, I don't control what they see in their news feed. So I was kind of like, well, if they're friending friends who watch that and tweet that, there's not that much I can do. But they didn't really talk about it. I think the only one that they showed me was the one with Kim Kardashian on the Keurig, and then you've seen that video, right? I think that's their humor, and that's what we saw. So other than that, I mean, I feel like it didn't do anything affect me or, either way. I mean, I could care less. And I think there's still a lot of us out there who could care less.
Well, I think
There's two points to that.
hold on.
Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I think it did create a buzz, right? Because a lot of brands jumped on it, and some of the after tweets and interactions were very comical about that. It was kind of humorous. So, I mean, like I said, I kind of jokingly said Greg's in the 1%, but it was for a couple of days there. It dominated a little bit, and that's one of those things that I saw as brands being, where you kind of give them a tongue in cheek and let them fly with it and make fun of it, so to speak. And some of it was very, very creative. What I saw happening in space.
Well, so that kind of goes back to any publicity is good publicity.
Well, so there's two things that I kind of just building off of a couple points. One is from the beginning of time till now, sex always sells. I don't care. I don't know what it sells all the time, but it always sells and it always creates a buzz. And two, Doreen, going back to your point where who are you going to talk to your kids, or how are your kids going to talk to? How are you going to talk to your kids about it in your newsfeed? The same way that my parents talked to me about Playboy when I was 17. The same way that my dad's parents talked to him about like peep shows or whatever. I mean, from the beginning of time until now, 17-year-old boys have always been looking for ways to see.
The only difference, Greg, is Doreen has to do it every day.
Yes.
Whereas we kind of had it like weekly or monthly.
That's true.
I mean, and that's right. So I didn't have that talk at 17 with them. I had that talk at 13 and 14 with them because it was necessary to do that a lot earlier. Sure. And so this to me wasn't an issue, but because I have older children. The friend who asked has two much younger children. I think they're like maybe 10 and 12 or 11 and 13. So that I guess then maybe it's more of a concern. I didn't even cross my mind to actually go talk to my kids about this.
That brings up a really good point. You were saying that you had to have that conversation earlier because of social media. Does that mean that we are having to have these conversations earlier and our kids are growing up faster?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no innocence anymore. You can't hold on to that.
My daughter was doing a Google image search for something pretty innocuous, like a horse, and a big penis came up in the feed, and she was really little. And, that's a pretty, she's looking for paint color.
Time.
So it's one of those things where you just, it's really hard to keep them in the bubble for very long.
But doesn't this suck?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel sorry for kids because innocence is what childhood is all about. What are we doing? Is this working? Is it, I'm really beginning to question, is this social media stuff, is it Are we screwing up?
Yeah.
Do we have any control?
Maybe not. Maybe not. And maybe it's too late to ask that question.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I'm going to go look.
I would think. I would hope not. But in reality, it's the genie's out. So I don't know what we can do about that.
I was going to say, I just had a conversation with somebody. We now have technology in the schools, in our school system. It's a 3-year rollout. So last year, the middle schoolers got iPads. This year, the middle schoolers have iPads and can bring them home, and the high schoolers have Dell venues and can bring them home. And they upload all sorts of stuff on there. They are more concerned with taking pictures of their private body parts and uploading porn than doing other stuff in class. Now, next year, the rollout's going to be to elementary school. They still haven't put disciplinary things in place as far as I know.
No filters? No filters on there?
The kids are too smart. They take it home. See, it would be different, I think, if the device got left at school, and it might not be, as much time. They're going to be in a class, but these devices, we have to pay for the insurance, get taken home so they can continue what they're doing at school. And my daughter's taken some hard classes like biology. It's really nice to be able to not have to log in and out on your own computer and be able to take those apps and study and watch videos. And, a lot of that stuff is being taught that way. And, I fully expect my children not to mess around with their school computer and do that. But there's plenty of kids who are, apparently, and I was kind of shocked when I had that conversation with somebody. All the stuff they're finding on there. And then, so my concern is now, I have a 4th grader. Next year, he's going to be in 5th grade, and he's going to get a device as well, his own. At home, he has one that's shared, that's mine. And so we control it. He's 9. We control it. My older kids only got one when they were old enough to work and to earn their own device. So, yeah, that's a little scary. And the biggest thing is that there's no disciplinary rules. There's no social media guidance rules. I mean, they say, okay, you can't do this and this and this with the device. But what they're not saying is, okay, if you videotape a fat girl climbing up a tree and post it all over the internet, you're going to get, suspended for this or this. Or versus, you're in the pickup line and you push a little kid, you're going to get this. There's no rules. They're making it up as they go because they haven't really thought ahead of what's going to happen when these children abuse these privileges.
So do you tie that back to somebody like Kim Kardashian posting what she did or participating in what she did and the impact on your children?
Oh, she's not a role model for my daughter, but I know she's a role model for a lot of American girls. I mean, that's all they want. They want to be on YouTube. They want to be famous. They want to get a lot of money. They want to have a rich boyfriend. I mean, yeah, absolutely. If that's what they see and that's what they get, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Paris Hiltons and the Kardashians are a perfect example of, since when did that become a career?
Well, I mean, the whole reason why she's famous is because of a sex tape that got leaked. I mean, she's famous because of the internet and because she did something with her body that went on the internet. So that's really all of her fame is based on.
Reality TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, reality TV.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. I'm not a big reality TV fan because I don't believe that it's.
I like Survivor.
Well, I did. I don't know if you're Facebook friends with me, that I posted this afternoon that I'd seen a Clorox Mr. Clean ad that was like riffing on the Break the Internet, and it was like sexy Mr. Clean. Like, so it is the kind of thing where what companies I think came away from this is saying like, yeah, like lead with the stuff that's sexy, lead with the stuff that's whatever. And I think that's how they believe social media works.
Let me ask this as a general question, Jennifer. You bring out a good point, and I want to try to think of demographics and generational thing. Do you think that has something to do with a younger demographic that grew up a little bit softened, more so than say my demographic, and that intrusion going into the ad network. What do you think?
And some of it I think is just it's just laziness. I mean, to do social media right, you need to do work. And I think since the beginning of news, we've learned that, like, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, that's been a problem with the news since the beginning of the news, and it's certainly more bloody now than it used to be. But I think people get that that's the pattern. That's the easy sell, and that makes sense when you're selling, you know, a 4-alarm fire on the 5 o'clock news. It doesn't make sense when you're selling bleach. So I think, you know, companies are just saying, like, you know, I don't want to put the effort into it, and I see, you know, A plus B equals C over here. That's what that works. That's the formula that works, and they're all looking for this formula. And yes, we know that this formula works. Obviously, this person got a lot of tweets, but the fact that people are now translating that into business lessons is laziness, I think. I don't necessarily.
Well, but do you think that that's where we've gone in the focus on likes, tweets, and whatever versus the dollar amount?
Well, we talked about this last week. I think that's a conversation that's just going to catch up with people. I think right now they're thinking that that is the thing to chase, that the likes and the tweets and the buzz is success. And it's going to take a while before Paper Magazine says, we didn't sell any magazines, so we could put her butt on the cover of it every month, and we still aren't selling any magazines. We have to fire everybody. So I think that, you know, it catches up with you over time, and whether it'll, you know, that lesson gets learned for many companies. We talked about that last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure when that lesson catches up with people, but we all know as marketers that is the lesson. If there's no return, then it doesn't make a lot of sense. The return is making me think of another butt joke, but I'm not going to go there. We're done.
It goes back to Jerry's original thing, like in the green room and the conversations before going online about being kind of yawn-worthy, you know, just bored.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, but I agree. We should probably have, you know, a whole show. Burke and I recently talked on SteamFeed Radio about vanity metrics, you know, because there are, you know, people are writing all these wonderful things saying it doesn't matter, yet when I know people that won't follow someone with less than 1,000 followers. I mean, to me it's hypocritical, and I think we really have to take a hard look at the people that are in there that are writing these things, that are saying, you know, don't worry about it. Are we practicing what we preach? I think there's a lot of people that aren't. And I know myself. I've looked at, you know, I've seen social marketing companies, and I will. The first thing I'll do is look and see if they, you know, what their following is, you know, what their presence is. And to me, it tells me if you can't do it for yourself, how do you do it for my company? You know what I mean? But I don't know if that's fair.
I lost a speaking gig because I had under 100,000 Twitter followers. So it didn't matter that I won awards for doing that, and then I've been quoted in the media, and I spoke at a lot of other conferences. The fact that I had under 100,000 meant that I wasn't actually an expert in social media.
Yeah, I was reading in Adweek today, the magazine Adweek, not online, but you know, it did an expose on these cosmetic girls that do these videos. And their bar was 1 million subscribers, 1 million before you get there. You know, it's changing, so you got to think about that.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit, and Jen, why don't you fill us in on just what is going on in here?
Well, the conversation in the last, like, 3 or 4 days, I've been following about the company Uber has gotten very dark very quickly, and a lot of people posting about they're deleting the Uber apps, and we're done with Uber, and that's the ethical thing to do, is be done with Uber, because there's some stuff that happened at the top of the food chain in that company that's kind of building up about kind of sexist things that have gone on, and attacking a journalist, you know, with words, not violently, and some sexism and some violence in some of the cabs, and it's kind of all collected at this point where people are saying that this is uncalled for and we should delete the app. And what's difficult, I think this is kind of the crux of, you know, the sharing economy that's been growing over the last couple of years, is that when you invite everybody to the table as part of the sharing economy, there is some bad eggs in there. There's going to be some bad eggs in there. And what do you do about that? And so it's difficult because I use Uber, I find it very valuable, but I am now kind of in an ethical quandary the people that I deal with on the front lines are lovely and give lovely service, but the people up at the top are doing things that personally I don't agree with. And we saw this after the Boston Marathon, where the CEO of Instagram's wife ran the marathon. She used somebody else's number, and people said, we should all delete Instagram because this person did this thing. So there can be this disconnect when you have people at the top who are kind of putting their foot in their mouths, but there's a service where at the bottom, those of us who use it find it okay. And at what point do you say, when do you have to make that choice to abandon ship? I don't know. It's too broad of a question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you just search Uber, I mean, right off within the top 3 stories, there's a story about the moment I learned just how far Uber will go to silence journalists and attack women. And that's kind of, that's interesting. And I don't know.
I think
Anybody else have any thoughts about this? I mean,
I think there's something to be said today about the meteoric rise of brands. These such as Uber and other type Airbnb and things like that just kind of all of a sudden they're on the scene and everybody embraces them and rushes to the well, so to speak, and then you come back, and find out, it takes something to build a brand. It takes something to once that money starts flowing in, the real character of those guys or women or whoever the team who has put this idea together comes out. By then, but in the world we live in today, it rushes through and overnight you're a sensation, and a week later, the truth comes out. I mean, I think that's what happens today.
It happens.
So the brands like Uber and Instagram, they're built with a very social component, right? So they're built very people are talking about to each other about these apps and these brands. But let's take a brand like Procter and Gamble, which is as legacy as it comes. I mean, there's no social aspect to Cheerios and house cleaning, but do you think that wouldn't you kind of think that this stuff happens at Procter and Gamble, but because it's not built on a very social platform, that there's just no there's no opportunity for it to spread.
It's almost like if you're born by the buzz, you have to die by the buzz.
Exactly.
I think that's the key point, Jennifer. Jennifer's got the key point right there.
Yep, you're born by the buzz, you die by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Procter and Gamble. You say that. Look how long it's been there. It's an iconic brand. Look at all the things it touched, what it's gone through. And if you back up inside of their culture, they're very cautious, especially how they approach the public out there. If it's a social media thing, they're doing it. Uber or somebody like that, they were born inside of this digital world.
Exactly, and that's why I kind of mean. That's why I think like because they are born into this, and because they're built on these platforms that are inherently social and inherently conversational, that it doesn't take nearly as much to get that fire started as it would inside a brand like Procter and Gamble.
Well, think of Facebook. Think of what it's going through. And the only saving grace for Facebook is they were first to the trough, and they've got the billion behind them.
Sure.
Think of the things they've done. A smaller brand would have, succumbed to that.
And I think people pick and choose. I mean, people pick and choose what they're going to make a big. I mean, look at Bill Cosby. Nobody's really pushing that, and the guy's guilty as hell.
No, they're pushing it. I mean, they canceled his concert.
Yeah.
They canceled his TV show. All that came out tonight. I mean, they're pushing it.
Do you think he's going to actually do any time for this?
No, I don't know whether that happens or not. But his money train kind of got
dried up. Yeah.
Well, and I think the other part of that for him is that he's probably going to leave this earth a disgraced man. You know what I mean? Not
Could
that
very well be, yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and which is kind of a shame about, and that's kind of a stamp on society because Bill Cosby was, you know, the father of whatever USA, the wholesome guy, you know, that brought a message to several generations there.
Mhm.
yeah, and I think it's interesting too. I heard an interesting point today when somebody was making, actually it was Dan Levitard who made a really interesting point. They were talking about it, and he said, you know, this would be different if it was a he said, she said type situation. But what it is, it's a he said, she said, she said, she said, she said, and she said, and she said. There's like a whole lineup of women that are saying the same thing.
And he ain't said nothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just to me, it's one of those things. I was looking at it and saying, you know, I'm surprised that people aren't, you know, going nuts with this and saying, you know, we got to do something. But
Yeah, I was talking to a younger female downtown today, and she said something about the Bill Cosby thing, and I said, well, I remember when that firestorm happened originally, and she said, I didn't even know that happened.
right,
So you know, it's impacting a new generation of people. You know that she kind of whatever she thought of, whatever his impression of her, you know, impression she had made on her. And then all of a sudden, this thing's like, oh, I said, you know, you got to look at the history there. There's a long line of history with that happening with this celebrity.
right. And
Yeah, I didn't know about that until this
a lot
show
of
popped up either.
as we were talking, where kids are growing up faster. Look at also, you know, when you're in the White House now, as opposed to when you're John Kennedy. Social media has changed everything in that it's all like Jen, you were saying. You can be looking up an innocent thing and have something thrown in front of you. It's just changed our lives in such an interesting way, and I don't know that personally. I feel like we don't really know yet where it's going to go.
Well, let me bring up a point there. Something that I'm dealing with in the last few days is that it's also very cultural. You know, it's easy to generalize that it's, you know, something that's happening everywhere in the world, but I'm seeing some differences with cultural things happening, for example, in Europe where I'm from, where social media has not integrated in society. And this, you know, for an example, I was talking to somebody today where 2 years ago I was in the Netherlands visiting my parents, and my mom and my sister and I went to a huge conference, and it was like a women's show where all the newest product, you know, everything, and we took this bus, and it was like a 2-hour bus tour, and all these women, you know, got there at 8 a.m., got on the bus together and went to this, you know, we're all bused there from all over the country to this big conference. And while we were there, and I'm telling you the truth, there wasn't a single seller, booth, vendor out there saying, like me on Facebook, take a picture. There wasn't a photo op. There wasn't any. I went on my sister's phone and go, can I even like the venue? Can I even, there was no buzz. There was no hashtag. There was nothing. What it was is people connecting with each other, women having fun with sisters and daughters and mothers, and they weren't putting out their phones. They were enjoying that time, that minute, that day, and they didn't need to show everybody else what they were doing. And so this is real in our lives because we live here, and this is what's happening in our world. But there are some places in the world that this is not reality. You know, they could care less about Kim Kardashian. They could care less about, you know, what the brands are doing. They're leading their lives, and it's not as obsessive as here. And I see that as a big cultural thing. I mean, they don't get what the big buzz is about. I just want to kind of bring that up because this is something is happening with a friend of mine culturally, you know, in the business world, and I'm kind of helping a little bit with that. And it's just a very interesting. We've just, you know, finally said this has to be a cultural thing because there's no other explanation for what's happening in the behavior and the, you know, communication issue. And I think a lot of that happens in social spheres. It's so easy. Oh, we all have Facebook, but people use it very, very differently and look at it very differently.
Doreen, let me ask you this, because you grew up in that region and you live in this region. What do you think? Is it the values, the family values? Is there a breakdown there And I'm not talking about inside of your family, but inside of the region you live in.
Yeah, and I think it's probably all over Europe. It's still very family oriented, but I don't mean like immediate family. I have two friends who one's American, one's Dutch, and they lived here for 2 years and moved back to the Netherlands recently. And they go out with friends. They go out for beer. They go out for food. There's always somebody going on. They have a culture of visiting each other at 8 o'clock at night and hanging out with friends, playing board games. That's still going on. That's still real people having real friendships, doing real things with friends versus sitting at home at 8 o'clock at night watching TV, eating food on a plate in front of the TV, and being on Facebook and pretending to have fun. These are people, cultures, having fun, doing it, being with friends, going out, going on hopping on a bicycle and going to their friend's house and doing a 3-hour fondue party. That's happening. Young people, any generation. And it's not happening in this country. It's very much a cultural thing. So that, knowing that about that country and, seeing my family be part of that, bringing, it makes sense here. People are more isolated. People don't live near family. When you have smaller European countries, from one side of the Netherlands to the other is a 4-hour drive. I mean, it's not very far. And so families live closer together and they have more opportunity to do that. But there's more of a culture to be together and to do things together. They work to live. They don't live to work. And it's very apparent in all of their culture.
Our time. But, with this conversation, I think we're right back to where we started. I ain't got shit. I'm gonna go. I feel like I want to go. Move into a subway tunnel somewhere.
Or the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a good place to live.
All right, all. You have a good evening, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks. And have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.